Hello, beautiful people. So, this is completely off script. Okay. So, I have been really wanting to get my YouTube channel back up and going because I just have this burning desire and passion for those who are dealing with the journey of dementia. My grandmother passed away 2 years ago. I have my entire journey, about a year and a half of my journey leading up to her final days that it's on my TikTok. It's on WithLoveChuckie. I've now since turned it into another type of page, but if you go to my Instagram and you go to that TikTok, you will see that entire journey. And I had to step away. I had to step away. There is a beautiful caregiving community that I became connected with during that journey, that really, really tough year and a half to 2 years. Well, the whole journey is tough, but that 2 years, that year and a half right before she passed was just devastating to just see and go through. While it was also in an interesting way, there was like a level of peace and acceptance that was also coming over me at the same time, like going through it. It got me a lot more comfortable with death. It got me a lot more comfortable with understanding the process of end of life. It got me a lot more comfortable with just understanding the cycle of life. Okay, so I have learned a lot these last 2 years post caregiving. And what I do, I want to just shout out all the other caregivers that I've ever come in contact with via social media or in person, because some of their loved ones have passed away as well. And they continued to post and talk about it. And for me, I really needed to take a huge step back and just gather my thoughts, collect myself, heal, and just meditate and think and journal and just be. And now I'm finally ready to just unleash all of this information, everything that I've learned and meditated on these last 2 years, everything that I've learned and experienced the last 8 years of taking care of my grandmother with dementia. And I really feel like there's so much that I did right and there's so much that I did wrong, and I want to be able to do kind of like a compare contrast type of information where it's like, hey, this is what I thought was correct and this is actually correct. There was so much confusion and so much lack of knowledge and anger and pain that was going on all at the same time. So dealing with my grandmother as she was declining, I didn't really know what was going on because I wasn't educated on dementia. So I started to become educated toward the end of life, but there was so much stuff toward her, yeah, toward her going into the transition. But the beginning stages, the early stages, beginning stages, middle stages, late middle stages, and then late stage, like the late middle stages and back, I wasn't informed at all. And I would just be so mad dealing with my that journey because I would just be like, how is this, like, am I the only person dealing with this on the planet? Like, is me and my mom the only person dealing with this on the planet? There has to be other people out there. So then I just started posting about it and I just got introduced to millions. I mean, I know there's millions of people out there, but I got introduced to several hundred people that were going through the same thing as me. And so now that I look back, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of things I'm really proud of myself for, but there's a lot of things that I should have did better and could have did better because I just had lack of knowledge. And so that's really what my purpose is in reintroducing this page. You can actually see a couple of my earlier videos. You'll see my grandma, but I'll actually be reposting a lot of, and there's so much footage I've never posted before. I have hundreds and hundreds of videos of my grandmother's early stage and beginning stage. And now that I look back and I have experience with that journey, I'm like, oh, that was the dementia. That was an indicator of this. That was this. I should have said this better. I should have done that better. I should have had different actions. So, one example is I would argue with my grandma a lot because I thought that she was like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I would argue with her. There would be something that she would say, and it was just clearly wrong. Like, I'm like, Grandma, you know this. Like, you know that that's not true, or that's not that timeline, or that's not when that happened, or that's not how that happened. We would even have pictures and video of an occurrence that she was talking about, and she would be like, this is nope, this is exactly how it was, and that's when it happened. And I would just literally get into debates. And I would just, now that I look back, I feel so bad about that because I'm like, it wasn't really her. It was literally the dementia kind of like overlaying all these different timelines and just honestly confusing her. And so many people are dealing with this right now with their loved one with dementia, and they think that trying to reason with them or trying to get them to remember something correctly, and it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like what I wish I would have done in those moments was just like, oh, really, grandma? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Left it at that and let her be at peace with thinking that the timeline happened how it happened. Like, does it really matter at the end of the day? Like, is it costing us millions of dollars for her to know that timeline that it happened in 1980 as opposed to happening in 1960? Like, does it matter? So there's just a lot of things like that that I didn't know that you shouldn't really go back and forth. I just was like, no, grandma, like it's important. Like you got to remember this. Like, and I would just be so like pushy um and it was innocent. Like it wasn't like I was doing it from a bad place. It was like, no, grandma, I really want you to remember. Like this is important for you to remember. And like it just isn't. Her body is going through its transition. Her brain is going through its transition. There's also a lot of things that I wish I would have understood and that were on top of now with her children, which is my mom, my uncle, and my aunt. There's a lot of things now that I'm like, wow, the whole time we had no idea that this was actually gonna propel her dementia, kick it into gear. Dementia has a lot to do with lifestyle. I didn't know that. I had no idea. I thought it was just something that you could potentially get when you get old. I didn't know that it's not necessarily something that ever has to get activated if you live a certain type of lifestyle. So my grandmother had a very, very poor diet, ate out of a lot of canned foods. She ate a lot of pork rinds. She had a lot of fried chicken. My grandmother would drink beer every single night, and it's innocent, right? She's watching her sci-fi, she's drinking her beer, and she's having her pork rinds. Like she's living her best life. She's fine, but not knowing that all of that was contributing to her eventually getting dementia. Um, Even her smoking in her younger years, all her teenage years, all her 20s and all her 30s, she smoked. She smoked cigarettes. And again, it's something that's legal, right? It's legal to drink beer, it's legal to drink cigarettes, but the combination of having a very poor diet, not an active lifestyle at all. My grandmother sat, especially after she um, after my grandmother, I'm trying to think of when it actually really started to kick in. She became really sedentary when she was retired. Okay, when she became retired, it was like the reason why I was like, did she really ever move? Like after she retired, it was like she would wake up. She always got ready, which I loved. I thought that was so cute. She would literally get ready. She would get dolled up. She would put her makeup on, do her hair, and then she would just sit in her room in the same spot for 25 years, like until she passed away. And maybe a little less because she graduated. She retired at 65 and then she passed away at 81. So from 65 to 81, she sat. She didn't walk. I mean, unless we were going somewhere, we went on vacation. But I'm saying like she didn't have an active lifestyle at all. So being sedentary for all those years was literally just inviting that dementia to just come right on in. Okay. So I really want to dive deep into these topics. And so it's going to be very like, the videos shouldn't be too long, maybe about 15, 20 minutes max of just diving into like one small sector at a time of what I could have done differently, what I was proud of myself for, and just really hoping that this touches someone and that this just know that you're not alone. Just know that there is thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are going through this out there. And there's actually a new wave of a lot of grandkids really being a part of the dementia journey with their grandparents. So I'm a grandchild that there's a lot of there's a lot of mother daughter caregiving relationships, but there's also a new wave of the grandchild and the grandparent. I'm not really sure why. I would actually like to dig in as to why that is, but I really want to dig in deep with you guys. So if there's anything that you specifically want to know, let me know down in the comments. I will do a whole video on it. I will research, or I will get you the right resource. There's tons of resources that I actually figured out. I actually ended up being a part of a caregiving group that was organized through the Alzheimer's organization. And to be honest, it actually made me sad because I became aware of that group way too late. My grandmother was already about 6 months out from when she was going to pass away, and at that point she was basically bedridden. She was barely eating, she was barely drinking, she wasn't talking anymore, she was blind. I mean, so like a lot of the I was like, is there an end of life like community like Zoom call? And they're like, no, there's not. And so it was more so having to deal with them when they're in their early stage to mid stage, because that's a very, very intense, because there's all the things that are confusing start happening then, where you're like, mom, you knew that, mom, you know where that is, grandma, you know where that is, grandma, you know how to do that, mom, you know how to do that, like, and you're just getting confused as to why this person that is pretty much like, you see, your mother or your grandmother or your grandparent, like they're a hero, and then now they're like, don't know how to do anything. And so just navigating that, and it was a really great Zoom call, but I just was like, I had to talk to the Zoom person later on, like the leader, and I just was like, is there another? I think I'm in the wrong call. And she's like, no, this is the only one that we have. And I'm like, my grandmother's passed all this. And she's like, oh, I'm just so sorry. So there are those resources. The second that you find out that a loved one is diagnosed with this, you need to get with the community immediately, because that is the only way that you will be able to navigate this and not want to literally fall into a depression yourself. So I will also be talking about those resources. But if you go to my Instagram is linked down in the description for the at love chuck or at with love Chuckie. It's at with love Chuckie on Instagram, and you'll see a lot of those resources there. But I will do a whole entire breakdown of resources um, in the future on this channel. So make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, start asking questions or anything that you want to know about down below. Again, I was a caregiver for 8 years full time. 8 years full time. Okay. Um, so go ahead and do that, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.